Hello. Welcome to this week's 10-minute live. I'm not sure that I'm going to do them weekly, so I don't know how accurate that introduction is. But this is part of my series of 10-minute lives, which is the series in which I do not attempt to condense the thoughts that are in my head into a short 60-second reel. Instead, I promise to keep it under 10 minutes, but still allow myself the space to waffle a little bit. The topics of these lives are usually chosen from the conversations that I'm having with my clients, with my colleagues here on Instagram, and today we are talking about healthy ways to use English. Just going to give everyone a second to join us. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. So today we are talking about healthy ways to use English. And I think before we go any further, it's worth having a little bit of a moment to speak about what I mean here by healthy. So when I'm talking about healthy and unhealthy ways of using English, I'm really talking about that relationship that you have with the language. Now, these are just my definitions. You can argue with them. That's not a problem. But for me, healthy is anything which allows you to develop that sense that your English is fundamentally good enough. Good enough does not mean finished. Good enough does not mean I don't have to improve, but it does mean that you are coming from a place of general satisfaction with your language level. So we're looking at cultivating that really healthy relationship with English that says, you know what, I'm good enough. I'm happy to improve. I enjoy improving, but I don't feel like I'm lacking in any sense. Obviously, the flip side of that is an unhealthy relationship with English and unhealthy activities or activities which encourage an unhealthy mindset. And that's a mindset that says, I am not good enough. I am fundamentally lacking. I am without. Maybe I do not deserve my job, do not deserve to kind of speak comfortably to people. My voice isn't valid because I don't have enough language skills, English, vocabulary, whatever it is that kind of comes through in your head. So when I'm working with clients, a lot of what I'm trying to do is help them build a routine that cultivates this healthy, good enough mindset. There's loads of things you can do, but today I really want to talk about actually how you use English, the tasks that you use it for. So if we think about this unhealthy, not good enough mindset, first of all, we can see that a lot of the really common ways of practicing English feed into this sense of not good enough. And we can get into conspiracy theories about why that is. But for today, I think we can leave that to one side. So if you think about things like even your very typical language class. So you go along, on a Monday and a Wednesday evening to your local language school and you are doing your B2 course. You're going through your upper intermediate course book. And at the end of that course, there is the sense that you're not ready to finish. Why? Because they want you to come back and do C1. Go through the advanced course, or maybe take that exam, or prepare for that thing, or whatever it is. There's a sense always that you're on this treadmill that never really ends. So a lot of the kind of really classic English courses, and I know teachers watching this might kind of go, but wait, that's what I do. Yeah, it's what I did for a really long time, really long time. But a lot of that classic, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of framework of levels and progress, and you finish one course and then you complete another, really feed into that, like, not good enough yet. When I have the next course, then I'll feel good enough. More specifically, anything kind of grammar based. So if you think, oh yeah, I'm going to spend 20 minutes with my little grammar course book and I'm going to do a page of exercises. This is really focusing on the things in the language that you don't have yet. It's giving you a mark out of 10. It's saying, are you good enough? Are you not good enough? And even if you're doing really well, even if you get 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, 25 out of 25, it's still a measure which says the language that you have is quantifiable and you're only good enough if you have, all of it. Other things that are kind of unhelpful If you are, for example, maybe listening to a podcast or reading an article or watching a film, and your focus is, I'm going to find 10 new words. I'm going to write down 10 new words. We're really focused again on this language, on like quantifying and increasing the quantity of your language, which feeds in to this idea of, do you have enough? Do you have not enough? Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying these activities are completely worthless, but if you look at your typical week and say 95% of what I'm doing in English ticks these boxes, then I would say let's try to incorporate some more healthy stuff as well. So what does healthy look like when we're thinking about tasks in English? Well, for me, it's anything that focuses on the doing, focuses on the communication, focuses on English being the tool that you're using to do something. And I spoke in last week's 10-minute live about why I think that's a really, really important mindset shift to make. So if you, and obviously where you live in the community you're part of is going to impact what's available to you, but things like volunteering for a charity in your area, presuming of course you live in an English speaking environment. This allows you, especially if you're maybe new to, my context is the UK, if you're new to the UK, it allows you to meet people, it allows you to communicate with lots of different people, but the focus is not English. The focus is the charity, the projects that you're working on, whatever it is that you're doing. Really, really nice way of kind of low pressure. Nobody's expecting you to be incredibly skilled or incredibly perfect at anything. Low pressure allows you to start focusing on what it is that you're doing rather than the language itself. Other thing you can do is, join a club or a class or something like that. Again, if you're in the UK, that might be something you can do in person. Lots of big cities in other countries will also have maybe English-speaking versions of these, so you could join an English-speaking football team, or you could join the local gym if you're based in an English-speaking environment. If you don't have any of those things available to you in person, why don't you start doing a regular YouTube workout or a YouTube yoga session or something like that, allowing you really to focus on something else. Focus, in this case, on your fitness, on your exercise, on moving your body, which is great for your mind, but you're doing it in English. And what I would say, of course, is don't then go and write down all the vocabulary. That's not the point. Leave that to, either to never or to another part of your practice. Instead, just really focus on stretching your body and listening to that movement. Equally, if fitness isn't the right thing for you, start a hobby, learn how to sew or to crochet or to paint or something like that. If you are wanting to kind of do something a little bit more structured, maybe with kind of a certificate at the end, do that, but instead of doing an English course, try doing something else entirely. You could do a photography course online, or you could do a business course, or you could do something for your career that is taught in English. So again, English is what you're using, you're getting that chance to use it, see it in a new context, but the purpose is photography or business or whatever it is that you choose to do. Now there are millions of courses online that are either free or really low cost and totally accessible. If that feels like where you're at, go for it. The extra challenge and probably extra expense, would be stepping that up to a live course, so where you actually have course mates that you can communicate with and message and email, and that obviously adds that a little bit extra into that situation. Another thing you can do is just hang out with your friends. If you've got friends who either speak English or speak another language where you don't share that same first language and you use English to communicate, spend lots of time with them. And I think it comes very naturally when you're with your friends. You sort of stop worrying so much about the vocabulary. That isn't always the case. Sometimes it's very present in your mind, but if you're able to relax and really just work on that communication and just hanging out with your friends and having fun. If you don't have anyone in your life at the moment who you can speak English with, lots of places, again, if you're in a tiny village in the middle of nowhere, this might not be as relevant, but you can still find maybe an equivalent online. lots of big cities or towns will have, you know, an exchange option where you can say like, hi, I'm looking to improve my English. I'd really like to connect with someone who speaks English. Would you like to practice with me? My kind of little extra that I would add is say a little bit about yourself. Say, I'm really interested in like nature and walking. I really like reading and whatever. And then add, you know, if you are into those things too, I'd love to practice my English with you. Because then it makes it more about trying to find the right person, find someone who you click with and who you connect with, rather than just talking with anyone, regardless of whether you have a connection or not, simply to use your language, which I think feeds more into that unhealthy mindset. Other things you can do for things like, although I recommend, things like my Deep Talkers group. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, I have a podcast that comes out approximately every 2 weeks called Deep Talk. It is based on this fundamental idea that certainly by the time you're at an advanced level, you really need to be doing more in English rather than focusing on the language. So each week I have a different guest and we talk about something that's just interesting in and of itself. So listen to that by all means, but Deep Talkers is the group that kind of goes along with it, the members group. We have a Patreon, we have a Facebook page, and we meet once a month to catch up, to say hi to each other, and also to talk about the topic. So vocabulary, unless it's very specific vocabulary that's maybe culturally specific and I'm able to provide that, vocabulary doesn't come up, grammar doesn't come up. It's not about the language, it's all about the exchange of ideas. So finding yourself an environment, if not that one, then something like that is really, really good for helping build that sense that your English does something rather than your English just is. And that's where that fundamental mindset shift comes from. So I'm going to leave you with that today. Thank you so much for listening, if you've made it all the way to the end. Add in the comments your thoughts. Is this something you do? Do you have any other things that you would add to that list of healthy tasks? Things that really focus on English as a tool, English as a means, rather than something in and of itself to be improved just because it should be improved. That, I think, feeds into that unhealthy mindset and something that I would recommend you try to move away from. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. I'll speak to you guys very soon. Bye bye.